Hidden deep in the Egyptian desert, there's a mystery, one that could totally rewrite what we think we know about the history of science. We're talking about a lost civilization that was reading the stars thousands of years before anyone even thought about building the pyramids.
So, let's just start with a big question, one that really challenges everything you probably learned about ancient history and where science began. I mean, when I say ancient stone circle, what's the first thing that pops into your head? For most of us, it's going to be somewhere in Europe, right? You're probably picturing Stonehenge. But what if I told you the real story? The one that's way, way older. Isn't there at all. It's hidden in one of the most brutal, inhospitable places you can imagine today, the Sahara Desert.
All right, let's get into it. We're talking about a place called Nabta Playa, and trust me, this site completely flips the script on the early days of human cleverness.
Seriously, just let that date sink in for a second. 7500 BCE. That is thousands of years older than Stonehenge, thousands of years older than the Great Pyramids. And it's way out there, about 800 kilometers south of where Cairo is today, built by a society that was, well, way more advanced than we ever gave them credit for. Okay, so the big question is, how on earth did anyone even find this place? I mean, it was hidden for millennia under all that sand. How did we uncover it? Well, for that, we have to thank an archaeologist named Fred Wendorf and his team. Back in the 70s and 80s, they stumbled upon what was basically a treasure trove. And not just big stones, you know. They found old campfires, bits of pottery, even burial sites, all the little things that, when you put them together, paint this incredible picture of a complex, bustling society. And here's where the story gets really wild. The Sahara? It wasn't always a desert, not even close. Back then, around 7000 BCE, Nabta Playa was a lush, green grassland. It even had a big seasonal lake. It was the perfect spot for a civilization to really take root and grow. So, you have to ask, why go to all the trouble of dragging these huge stones out here and arranging them so perfectly? What was the point? Well, it turns out they were looking up at the sky, and they had a very, very practical reason for it. Yeah, that circle of stones at the center, definitely not an accident. This thing was a precision instrument. Think of it like a giant ancient calendar made out of rock, all designed to track one thing in particular, the sun.
And the most important event they were tracking? The summer solstice.
So here's the genius of it. On the summer solstice, the longest day of the year, the sun would rise and line up perfectly with specific stones in the circle. Now, that wasn't just for a cool photo op. It was a critical signal. It was nature's alarm clock, telling them that the monsoon rains, the water they needed to survive, were on their way. But this place wasn't just a fancy weather station. There was something much deeper going on here. All the evidence points to Nabta Playa also being a really important spiritual center, a sacred place for the people who lived there. See, Wendorf's team didn't just find everyday stuff. They unearthed these special ceremonial buildings and graves that tell us these people had a really complex belief system. It was basically an organized religion, but from thousands and thousands of years ago. And maybe the most powerful piece of evidence for this, they found cattle buried in these special ceremonial pits. This means cows weren't just for dinner. They were sacred. They represented fertility, life itself, a link to the gods, and, get this could be the very beginning of the famous cattle cults that we see later all over ancient Egypt. But like so many stories from the ancient world, this green paradise didn't last forever. So what happens to this amazing advanced culture when the world around them literally dries up and blows away? Well, the climate started to change, big time. The monsoons stopped coming. That huge lake at Nabta Playa just evaporated. The green grasslands turned into the harsh, empty desert we see today. And the people? They had no choice. They had to leave, heading east, looking for water. And this is where we see this incredible connection. As the Sahara became unlivable, people started moving. And where did they go? Towards the Nile Valley. And it is absolutely no coincidence that right around this time, civilization along the Nile just explodes. The thinking now is that these weren't just refugees showing up with nothing. No, they brought their knowledge with them. Their understanding of the stars, their calendar, their religious rituals, their beliefs about cattle. They planted the intellectual and spiritual seeds that would grow into the incredible civilization of ancient Egypt. So the legacy of Nabta Playa is just huge. It completely forces us to rethink the origins of some of humanity's greatest achievements. I'm talking about astronomy, organized religion, complex society.
We always thought that stuff started in the big river valleys, but maybe, just maybe, it started out here, in the middle of a Sahara that used to be green.
Discoveries like this are just an amazing reminder that we're always learning, that history isn't set in stone. It makes you wonder, right? If a whole civilization this smart could be lost to time, just buried under the sand, what else is still out there, just waiting to be found?